Everybody, and welcome to lesson 1 of hypothetical choreography. So hypothetical choreography you will find in section A of your exam paper. So what is hypothetical choreography? So hypothetical meaning that it's made up, it doesn't yet exist. You are creating it as you go. And choreography, as you know, is the art of making dance. So actually choreographing, writing down and making a hypothetical made up dance. The exam will start by giving you a stimulus. This stimulus could be a poem, a sentence, a word, an object, a person, or a picture. We'll go over what a stimulus is in a minute. And roughly there's about 8 to 10 questions, and all linking back to this stimulus, you have to create a hypothetical choreography. So, can you define the term stimulus? What is a stimulus? So it is an inspiration for an idea or movement. So it's that starting point, it's that inspiration. Examples of different stimuli. So a poem, image, action word, a prop, theme, auditory, sculpture, pattern, shape, song, lyric, soundscape. There's so many different examples, and at the beginning of section A, when you open that exam paper, you will get one example of a stimulus that you will have to create the dance around. So here are just some key information and tips. So they are all short answer questions in section A. So they're going to be roughly 1 to 4 mark questions. There's no extended writing in this section. So they're short, snappy questions, but there are, like I said, about 8 to 10, so quite a lot of them. The marks highlight how long you should be spending on each question. So 1 mark should take you probably about 30 seconds, whereas a 4 mark might take you 4 minutes. Okay, so that's roughly how long you should be spending. We say in section B and C it's kind of 1 minute a mark, so just kind of keep to that time track as you're going through. Don't waste time on being over creative. So don't dissect this stimulus into some crazy theme. We want to keep it simple. You want to show the examiner that you know a simple theme that really relates to that stimulus, and you can run with that. Don't be too over creative and make it over complicated for yourself. Motif writing. So when you get to the motif question, which I'll go through in a minute, it can just be 2 to 3 sentences. You don't need to write a whole dance out. Remember, a motif is just a short sequence. And the top tip is that you are always linking back to the dance idea that you have created from that stimulus. Every single question out of the 8 or so is always linking back to that dance idea. Okay, so let's get started. I have chosen this stimulus, which is clearly a picture, and I just want you to have this picture in front of you, or so you could in your book just kind of do a bubble around stimulus 1 and annotate this, or if you wanted to you could print this out. So just have a go at annotating this stimulus. So what do you see? What could an idea be? What colours do you see? Okay, so you should have annotated that stimulus now and have a rough idea of a dance idea. So we're going to look at question 1. Outline a choreographic intention for your trio, which refers to image 1 and the use of the 3 dancers. Lots of information in there, so let's just break that down. So a choreographic intention, the intention of you, what you want to show the audience, the dance idea, that is the choreographic intention for your trio. So it's telling you you are choreographing for a trio. Every paper will be different. Okay, so you might get a group dance with 5, you might get a solo. This is telling you a trio, therefore you're going to have 3 dancers for your hypothetical choreography. Next part is which refers to image 1. So the stimulus, that picture, is image 1, and that will be labelled on the paper, so that will be a bit more clearer. So you have to refer to image 1 and the use of your 3 dancers. Okay, so it's a 3-mark question. You're going to get 1 mark for outlining your choreographic intention. You're going to get another mark to show that you have got that choreographic intention from that image, and you're going to get the 3rd mark by outlining how you will use the 3 dancers. Okay, so 1, you need to state your choreographic intention. 2, it must refer back to that stimulus of image 1. And 3, it must state the use of all the dancers. So just identifying that you have seen, yes, it's a trio and I need to use these 3 dancers. Okay, I have now answered the question, so we'll go on to what I have put. Oh, before we do that, choreographic intention could be a mood, a meaning, an idea, a theme, or a style. But like I said earlier, it needs to be simple, to the point, and really, really clear. So I've just color coded these so we can see. So choreographic intention. My choreographic intention is to show one person's conflicting personalities. Okay, so I have created that choreographic intention from seeing that image. This can be represented by the mirrors reflecting different sides of the face and therefore different personalities. So I've just outlined how I've got that choreographic intention from that picture. So I've mentioned the mirrors, I've mentioned the face, and how I have then got the conflicting personalities choreographic intention. The final bit is all 3 dancers will portray a different personality, for example, evil, good, jealous. Okay, so I have then outlined the 3 dancers. I've recognised that I've got 3 dancers, and I've linked it to my choreographic intention of the different personalities. Hopefully that is super clear for you, that I've got 1 mark for the choreographic intention, I've got the 2nd mark referring to the image back to that stimulus, and I've got the 3rd mark for outlining the 3 dancers. Okay, we are on to the second question. Describe a motif you could choreograph for your dance. Your answer should refer to the actions, space, and dynamics. And you're getting 3 marks for that answer. Important to pay attention to the marks at the side. Yes, like I said earlier, should take us roughly 3 minutes, but also that's showing you need 3 different points in this. So you have to have an action, you have to have an element of space, and you have to have a dynamic. This motif also must be sequential, okay, so it must have a sequence to it. You must be able to read it and visualize a dancer performing that particular motif. Remember, a motif is not one movement, it has to be a couple of movements, a sequence. Okay, so we're creating this hypothetical dance. We've just outlined the choreographic intention of the personalities. Now this is asking you to create the motif, okay? So what is going to be in the dance? Okay. Dancers walk diagonally, slowly, down stage right. Fists are clenched whilst they stomp their feet sharply. Arms punch outwards, showing anger and power. So you can imagine the dancers doing that. That's very clear. They're walking down stage, their fists are clenched whilst they stomp their feet sharply. Okay, arms are punching outwards. And I've highlighted for you which of these are actions, which of these are space, and which of these dynamics. So the actions there, you have the walk, you have the fists that are clenched, you have the stomping of the feet, and you have the arms punching outwards. Spatially, okay, a really easy one is to say you're facing, so a diagonal facing. You can also talk about where they're going from and to. So downstage right, you might say to center stage. That is telling me the space. Dynamics, again, really easy to add in. Slowly, sharply, they punch. You could have explosive, they could do it soft. Yeah, really easy to get these 3 marks. Just make sure the motif is sequential and that you have named an action, a space, and dynamic. And it's not just that they've walked downstage, it's that they've then had their fist clenched, they've stomped their feet, and their arms have punched outwards. Okay, it's more than one movement. Okay, next question. Give 2 ways you could develop the use of space in the motif you have described. 2 marks. Okay, so as you can tell, every single one of these questions are all going to link together. So you have to now talk about the motif that you've just created from the previous question and how you are going to develop that using a changing space. So, point 1 has to be a development of the motif you've described before. You can't now talk about a kick into a lunge. You have to now talk about what I've just said of the motif that we've explained, the arms punching, the fist clench. It has to be a development by space. Obviously, the question's asking you about space. Let's talk about how we can develop space. So you can change the space by talking about the directions, the pathways, the levels, the size of movements, the patterns, and the spatial designs. And you need 2 different ways. So you need to choose 2 of these. Okay, so it might be that you say that the dancers start facing the back. That is a development because I've changed the direction. It might be that the arms punch outwards, however the dancers are on their knees. So I've developed that by changing the level to a low level. Okay, next question. Give 2 ways you could develop the use of relationships in the motif you have described. So very similar to the last question, however, now we've been asked to change and develop the relationships. Now, because this is 3 dancers, this is a trio, so you can change the relationships within a trio. So, has to be a development of the motif described before. Again, you cannot now talk about a different movement in your hypothetical dance. It has to be about the movement that you've just said in the last motif question. And it has to be a development by relationships. So, know your relationships, which are lead and follow, mirroring, action, reaction, accumulation, complement and contrast, counterpoint, contact, and formations. Okay, so a nice simple one in that is formations for me. So you could just talk about 2 dancers are downstage whilst one is behind them in the middle, forming a triangle formation whilst they walk forward. So that would be a development and you change their formation. You could put that the dancers turn towards each other, they still punch outwards, but they do it one after the other. So that is showing me that they've done action reaction. Okay, so that is a development of the motif that you've previously described. Okay guys, so we have just gone through a hypothetical choreography. I haven't gone through 8 to 10 questions. I've just gone through a couple of the start questions. Hopefully this will get you used to what it means because it is quite a complex idea and it all has to link together. So just get your head around this first part and then as we go along we'll start developing our skills and doing more complex questions. Feel free to email me if you have any questions on anything we have covered as well.